This is a very, very important special episode. This is what we would maybe call the Super Bowl of Astrology 2025. Camille Michelle Gray is back to discuss Beyonce's dropped birth time.
Breaking news.
Oh
Had to
my
get in
God.
the booth for this. Hello, hello. Thanks for having me back.
Hello, you were the one who rung the alarm for me because immediately in my text threads yesterday, 5-ish p.m. or so, I get a text from Camille. Do you know that Beyonce's revealed her birth time?
It was revealed to me moments before I revealed it to you. It just like caught fire yesterday evening. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all of Twitter astrology or Astro Twitter or Astro Talk, everything just Beyonce's birth time.
Yes.
Aries Rising. We
Yeah.
got the rising.
We got the rising sun, you guys. We got it. And just to like catch people up, like the war was between is she Scorpio rising or is she Libra rising? And this Aries rising to me is the perfect compromise, right? So leave it to Libra stellium queen to make sure that we all win because it puts that Libra stellium on an angle, but it also makes her ruled by Mars. So
Oh,
we
powerful.
were
And I
all
mean,
right.
we were all right. We can all give ourselves a big pat on the back. Although there are some skeptics, and I mean, part of my mind as well goes there. This
Same.
could be a ruse. This could be a false time because she is still a Scorpio moon. And now that we know she's an Aries rising, in theory, eighth house Scorpio,
Yeah.
so as
Yeah.
always, everything with a grain of salt. And we're getting fun with it, okay? Let's not be so serious about this
Yeah,
stuff.
that's right.
So, I was gonna say we had done actually an episode in like a previous life on another platform on Beyonce's what her rising sign would be, and you were very firmly Team Libra rising.
I was Team Libra rising, and I think you're Team Scorpio rising.
I was Team Scorpio rising. Although, when we went back into the events, that was what convinced me to change from
Mm.
Scorpio to Libra because there were
Ah,
too many cardinal things happening
that's
uh,
right.
that you would naturally assume would be an angular situation.
Yeah.
And in this case, she's an Aries rising, which is the sister sign of Libra. So on some level, all the analysis still checks out,
Yeah.
but flipped houses, all of
It's
it.
flipped, right? I love that.
What a
Like
mind
that Virgo
fuck.
moves from the 12 to the 6. I was like, this is chef's kiss. That's perfect.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Okay, well, Beyonce's chart, there we have it. The 29-degree Aries rising. Now, how does this shift your understanding of Beyonce?
Well, the Aries rising, mind you, it's been less than 24 hours, right? So, but when I first heard it, I was actually shocked. And I'm not even gonna lie, like some parts of the chart that I'm still trying to make sense of in light of like
Mhm.
what I know about her. But then I settled into it this morning, right, doing research for this podcast. And I was like, it actually really, really lines up that she would have this really feisty Aries rising balanced out by a Libra stellium. And of course, it just took all my prior predictions and flipped the houses, which was an interesting kind of symmetry. So I'm easing into it now. There's some parts where I'm like, interesting, like I need to like sit with it, but
Mhm.
I'm loving it. I'm loving the revelation of it all.
Yeah. I mean, you and I were texting back and forth this morning before getting on to record formally. And I mean, the cutest, right? Like the cutest little thing, of course, I think was the Destiny's Child symbolism.
Oh
Just like
my
starting out
God.
very light, right? Because her, she's still not still, I'm like Team Scorpio rising, but her chart ruler
Mhm.
as an Aries rising is her Mars in Leo in the fifth house. And it's a night chart. So that Mars is very, very powerful on some
Yeah.
level, right? And so the fact that she's simultaneously like Beyonce, the superstar, but also had a very, very successful girl group, Destiny's Child, fifth house.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. 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 Yeah, like literally Destiny, North Node, fifth house. So the North Node was in contention too, y'all. That North Node, depending on the time, could have been Cancer or Leo. So now we know firmly North Node, Leo. Yeah, so like Destiny, North
Mm-hmm.
Node, child, fifth house. Like
Mm-hmm.
astrology works in those small ways. Like, sorry for the scholars in the room, but astrology works in that granular way, and astrology has a sense of humor.
Yes. And actually, you know what I was gonna say for Beyonce's nodes, it really depends if you're looking at it true or mean.
That's
So
true.
if you are one of those true node people like myself, you will see it's Cancer. But here's the
Yeah.
thing, Mars is still on the freaking North Node. Like you cannot disentangle it from the interpretation.
Absolutely. And can we talk about the Mars of it all? Like,
Oh, we can
Mars has
talk.
played a starring role just in this year with the retrograde. Now that we have this chart, like just like the transits of the moment of this revelation are so loud. Like Mars was at 29 Cancer yesterday in her fourth house of like origins and roots, and we get this like bam, like revelation, exactly square her ascendant of like self. The sun was on that ascendant too. And it's so niche, right? It's just for like the astrological people. Like for everyone else, it's just a normal week in Beyonce's life. But for us, it was like, bam.
For other people, this was just like, oh, this is a random birth certificate in her concert tour
Yeah, like
book.
cool.
Right. No, like everyone is losing their freaking minds just because, yes, I'm so glad you called it out. The transits around the name reveal also is the stuff of lore. Like it's not a random Dua Lipa, oh, I just like found my birth time. Oops, sorry
Right.
guys. It's literally Mercury moving into Aries after a very intense Aries season and meeting up with Neptune, which is a specialty of yours, which we'll get to in a second.
Yes.
And when you think about a once in a lifetime event, right? Like this moment, this was
Yeah.
it. Someone freaking famous AF.
Yeah. And
What?
like literally like ring the alarm, like Mercury, like right past Neptune at that 0 degree mark. And I said to you yesterday, and I think I said it on Instagram too, like, of course, when Neptune enters Aries, we get news about one of the biggest pop stars in the world, and it happens to be her first house of identity, and we get like her rising sign.
Absolutely. And it also opposes her Mercury in Libra at 3 degrees. So, from a seventh house perspective, sometimes if you're really famous, the seventh house then becomes kind of like a public facing house as well. And so
Absolutely.
we, the fans in that relationship with her, finally get to name her or like
Yeah.
understand her in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the transits were so chef's kiss. And also just like that Mars retrograde story on her node in a lot of ways. Like, not that this is like a pivot point for her in her destiny, but it certainly is for
Ah!
for astrological study from here on out. Like, I don't know, it just it feels important, and that Mars is highlighting that importance to me.
Okay, so I just like got some chills and I'm very curious, and maybe this is a question to save for later or something to meditate on during and we'll circle back to later, but do
Mhm.
you kind of feel like the simultaneous reveal of her birth information effectively then marks the end of her public presence? Like, is this laying the groundwork for stuff to wrap up? Because
Oh, like, wow.
you know what I mean? So, like, I'll let you noodle on that because it's so momentous. It's so
It is.
momentous, right? It's hard not to think that there's a deeper layer of significance. And if there's anything we know about a Beyoncé chart, intentionality is
Yes. There's
everything.
no way this was like an accident.
No,
I'm so
no.
curious to hear like why and how and why now.
And she definitely has an astrologer, right? Like I've heard that she has an astrologer
You
or
have.
Or maybe I don't know. Maybe I've just assumed because whenever she would announce something or do something, it would always coincide with stuff in her chart, which is why you could still kind of analyze her chart without knowing the rising because things would still hit and you're like, okay, obviously something's happening, but we just have no idea how it is choosing to be expressed in her
Absolutely.
chart.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's go to Neptune. Let's go to
Okay.
Neptune for a second. So, Neptune, obviously, a very, very important part of your research. Maybe remind some people who aren't familiar. If they haven't actually watched our Kendrick episode, plug to go watch that also.
Yeah. So my biggest body of work, the thing I've been researching, that's my like passion project in this space is connecting the archetypes of Neptune to the Black experience in the United States. And as part of that work, I gave a lecture, and I actually mentioned Beyonce in my lecture as a person whose like birth time we didn't know. So I didn't know how this Neptune story played out for her. And I felt like I had to like name her because she's one of the biggest Black entities ever, ever, right?
Ever,
And if
period.
this Neptune connection was to work, I needed to see like what was Neptune doing in like the biggest pop stars chart ever, but I didn't know because she ain't had no
Hmm.
birth time. So when we got this birth time yesterday, like as the flurry of it all, like, oh my God, Aries, oh my God, seventh house stellium. And then I realized, where is her Neptune? It's the most elevated planet in her chart.
Hmm.
And that colors one's legacy and destiny, and it's trine her ascendant. And so now I can see very powerfully how Neptune is showing up for her and how it like reinforces this Neptune story I have of like Black behemoths tend to have very powerful Neptunes in their chart as like kind of torchbearers of this Neptune connection to Black culture. So
Mm.
I like screamed and I sent you a voice memo and I was screaming in the voice memo. I was like, Tasha, Neptune, it's here, it works. In Beyonce's chart, it's saying a lot. Oh my God. So yeah.
I mean, when you sent me that, I was like, my God, it's so humbling, truly,
Mhm.
when these things do play out. And when you see, and that's why, like, I mean, on some level, like predictions are fun, things are fun, but when you see someone's life play out and it, holds to this underlying truth, oh my God,
Yes.
like, crushed it, nailed it. So,
It's like a chill. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yes, and I know you're definitely going to be doing more work on that. You're speaking a lot more. I know this, I mean,
Yeah.
this episode's going to come out, but you have literally something tomorrow even.
Yeah.
Speaking about it. If in case you catch this episode tonight, definitely check this talk out tomorrow.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about it, I might have to add an addendum for Beyonce now. So this is so exciting.
Oh my God, like live Q&A fire chat session because this
Yeah.
is literally again the Super Bowl of astrology for pop culture on some
Yes.
level.
Big time.
But okay, so going back to, her natal chart. Now, obviously with everything flipped, so much of Beyoncé's chart is rooted in the other because of this arc and intimacy emphasis. And we'll definitely get a Jay-Z of it all later
Yeah.
too, but
Yeah, I think this reinforces her collaborative nature, both
Mhm.
in, but especially in her work. Right now, we
Mhm.
see the ruler of the 10th is in the 7th, right? So it's really defining her work with others as being part of her legacy. But one of the most interesting things I was not excited to see, but that made sense here, was that it moved that Pluto from the first to the 7th. And if there's one thing I think about Beyonce, it's that all of the controversies that have surrounded her have been because of audience reaction or because of
Mhm.
what someone else was doing.
Mhm.
Jay-Z,
Mhm.
Kanye, what the audience at the CMAs was doing, the Grammy Voting Academy, whatever. Like her controversies have been born out of the other person's reaction and not of
Mhm.
her, which we would typically see with maybe Pluto in the first house. So that
Mhm.
was like bam. And also like moving Saturn there, yeah, this arc of intimacy is so important because Saturn is like her father, but also Jay-Z there. Yeah, it's clicking and it's making a lot of sense that she's such a relationship-based person. She always
Mhm.
was because of Libra stellium, but the seventh house just reinforces it more. What were your thoughts
Yeah.
there? The arc of
Yeah.
intimacy is a lovely way to put it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a Stephen Forrest term. Shout out Stephen Forrest for that nugget. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where you're like, wow, that just makes too much sense. But also the idea of you can still be your own person, even though you've got all these loaded up planets in, the spectrum, the realm of the other. Let's put
Yes.
it that way. And like this could have to me immediately been a chart about someone who maybe was so overtly dependent on the partner, right? Like there is just so much emphasis, but it really shows you her ability to also transform that dynamic in a relationship where it's not codependent, it's we're leveraging each other. I'm
Yes.
leveraging you actually to help. I'm claiming it from you to help me get to that next level. And I think
Yeah.
that speaks, to her Scorpio moon in that eighth, transforming intimacy, transforming these sort of energetic social contracts. And she's doing it from both sides. Virgo sixth house, that's almost like an energetic contract as well. Like we have
Mm.
to work, we have to share the same work ethic for this relationship to really work and thrive. So
Right.
yeah, I think what also really got me jazzed her Sabian symbols now that we kind of maybe know degrees as well. And so what I actually thought was a really interesting Sabian symbol was for her Capricorn midheaven. That 18 degrees Capricorn, which you would naturally kind of read that for 19 degrees Capricorn.
Yes.
And that translates to a 5-year-old child carrying a bag filled with groceries, rising to the occasion when asked to assume social responsibilities ahead of one's normal development,
Mm.
accelerated growth, right? It
16 carriages. That's that lyric right there. I mean, of that song.
literally,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
literally. And just like to think about, her whole life, right? Like she's literally been the backbone. So on some level, this is a quote unquote seemingly codependent chart at the first glance, but then when you think about it, she really is the engine helping keep everyone also afloat. She is
Yeah.
literally on that Aries rising 29 degrees by virtue of being a leader is doing it on behalf of everyone else, and that drives
Mm,
her sense of purpose as well, especially with that
yeah.
North Node in Cancer family, right? Like,
Absolutely. Can I read you what I learned about the 29-degree Aries ascendant?
please.
So it's from the internet, right? So take it with a grain of salt. I didn't read it out of a book, but it says 29-degree Aries is tuning into the sound of the universe. All life is like a melody, and we need to learn how to hear it. Devotion and veneration as tools of power and beauty. And Rudyard calls this degree the music of the spheres.
Beautiful.
Please be serious. He's literally like the biggest musician in the world. Yeah.
And when you have the Mars in Leo, her chart ruler being this powerful performer and like the maestro, like she
Yeah.
is the maestro.
And like she's a musician, like she's so many things, but Aries rising, she's a fucking athlete. She
Yes.
moves on stage, she treats her body. Everything's the Olympics for her. Like she is literally someone who is so in her body,
Mm-hmm.
with command of the body and performs her body. Like being a dancer is so Mars in the fifth house, like as well. And
Mm-hmm.
she's also just so warm and radiant. Like I associate her with like even fire and like hues of gold. And that just makes sense for her ascendant ruler being in the sign of Leo. And this is
Mm-hmm.
also why she is just an entity unto herself. She is Beyoncé. Yes, we do think about Jay-Z, right? Maybe in the next couple of sentences, but
Mm-hmm.
she is Beyoncé. There will never be another one of her. So even though she is so partnership based, she has so much selfhood written into
Mm-hmm.
this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean even back in the Destiny's Child era, right? Like you kind of hear
Yeah.
the Aries influence. It's like her POV is shining through Destiny's Child. Like it might be a three group, but it's a really the Beyoncé show.
Yeah.
Um, no shade. Everyone is very talented in that group, but Beyoncé just has this chart.
Yeah, she rose to the top.
She,
We saw her. Yeah.
she really freaking did. I mean, I
Yeah.
think about Survivor, right? That's such an Aries rising song, independent woman, right? Like all these songs line up with the Aries rising. But also, then you think about, Beyonce moving away from Destiny's Child. That was circa 2006, I
Okay.
think. That was right before Pluto formally moved into Capricorn, transforming that 10th house like no other. So this is a
Yeah.
note, right? If Pluto is entering your 10th house, career evolution coming. And here's the thing, it's going to feel scary. You're going to want to challenge yourself, but channel Beyonce and rise to the occasion because
Yeah.
you see over the course of Pluto and Capricorn how she has really fortified, cemented, and defined her legacy.
I was gonna say that was her ascension. It started like around 2008. Like, and then she just continued to steadily rise. Yeah, that space has been absolutely transformed.
Yes. Well, I was gonna say, technically, right? She had that ascension at that time, but something also very significant happened. So this is the part of the segment where we're going to be jumping into certain like key moments. We're gonna start now almost with the Jay-Z of it all because so this is a relationship oriented chart, and I will argue that he was a very important person in helping establish this next footing for her so that she can
Mm.
go really build and do her own thing. Feels like a very similar thing we said about Martha on some level, the
Mm.
partner helping catalyze. But if you were to look at, actually, I'm going to pull up Beyonce's, these are her like progressed lunar phases, just to clock, okay? She had a progressed new moon, 4 degrees Libra, September 24th, 2004.
Didn't she
Literally,
get married then?
that was a month after her and Jay-Z hard launched at the VMAs.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
hmm Formally marking, oh, we're actually together because there were rumors and things like that. But I found that really striking that that hard launch coincided with, oh, a progressed new moon in Libra at 4 degrees.
Yes.
And because we are Sabian symboling today, a man revealing to his students the foundation of an inner knowledge upon which a new world could be built. The necessity for the youthful spirits to learn from a teacher who, through his long experience, has been able to reach solid and illuminating truths. When the student is ready, the master appears.
Wow. Yeah, like he is her mentor. He's that father figure, that Saturn seventh house figure. Yeah.
we have to obviously bring up Jay-Z's chart. Now we don't know his birth time
I haven't seen
either.
this yet. This is a revelation. Okay.
It's actually kind of wild to like look at it now layered on with Beyonce, knowing this is Beyonce's time, because both of them
Yeah.
were C-rated for like the longest time. You just like did not know. So I mean, first thoughts. Woo, first thoughts.
I mean, I'm seeing Venus, his Venus in Scorpio matching her moon. So there is that intensity, that ride or die, that like,
Mhm.
shit happened here, but let's reach down into the depths and try to fix this. I see Mercury on her Neptune giving a voice or an amplification to her prominence and her fame and her reach in some kind of capacity. Oh my God, there's so much. Moon in Libra in her seventh house. I knew they had Jupiter in the same sign as well.
Mhm.
Wow, just so much. What do you see? What do you
Right? Oh my gosh, no, I honestly when you talked about the Mercury Neptune, I literally like of course, the vision and then now when you layer it with the Sabian symbol, right? Like they really ran that town and like
Yeah,
really even to the On the Run concerts and stuff. Like they built a music business together and they built
that's
it
right.
separately. Like they just really constructed what it could mean, I think, to be like really successful Black business
Yeah.
people in the music industry, not only just musicians, but really coming into their own as actual prominent entrepreneurs that are really, really successful. And I think that's very important, especially SAG when it's about abundance and visions and the idea that we can't actually do this alone. Like Jupiter and Libra,
Mm,
we have to do this together and we understand that we are going to go way farther than we would have tried to tackle this on our own. Um,
yeah.
I love that you brought up the Venus and Moon in Scorpio, especially because when I think about the first few songs, right? The first few album songs that Beyonce did after leaving Destiny's Child, Crazy in Love, Drunk in Love, Dangerously in Love. I
Yeah.
mean, all three hit with that. And the Mars fifth house in Leo. Like that makes a lot of sense. But what is also, I think, interesting, his Saturn in
I
her
was gonna
second
say, that's an
house.
establishing kind of thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. I'm seeing so many other things now. Can I just like spot name
Of
them?
course, rapid fire.
I see his south node on her sun in the sixth house. So again, like kind of
Mm,
like we've done this before, but also he coming in to like help her be that master. Like literally, he's been probably a master in prior incarnations. This is something I literally just saw with Lady Gaga and her current beau, who's also shaping and helping her like new music, era currently. So it's
mhm,
interesting that Jay-Z plays that role for Beyonce, I think too.
mhm.
Um, I'm seeing like the ruler of her eighth and the fifth as why she's so proudly sexual. But it's
Yes.
like opposing his by sign Mars in Aquarius, which is a little bit more aloof, which
Hmm.
I think makes sense with their dynamic maybe on stage. Like she's just out with it, right? Like surfboarding, right? Yeah, those are the two main things that I saw. Like it's incredible synastry.
It's just the idea that they are creative giants who are supposed to
Mm,
like be together. And also when you think about his series, Jay-Z on her lot of fortune, also, here's the thing. There's also another series connection here with the nodes, right? Between the
yeah,
both of them. So there is this idea of familiarity and family, or maybe how we were raised, and like there's just a natural connection, and we get that. And so
yeah.
maybe other people don't get that, but we get that. And that's why there's also it's almost like again a relationship that maybe again depending on what rumors and blinds you're reading, like you don't necessarily know what is real and what is false, but what you do know is based on this industry there's a shared mutual understanding, there's a lot of respect, and there is ultimately like partnership here.
Absolutely. Deep collaboration, like doing life together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One note, obviously, his Uranus is in Libra, which in of itself, right, you would have already baked in this reading or interpretation of, oh, like unconventional relationship dynamics. And for Beyonce, of course, this is in her seventh house. And when you think about the age gap between the both
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
them, that is a very Uranian thing. And so sometimes when you do see celebrities or people that you're like, I wonder what's up with that, and their age gap is crazy. Oftentimes, I think there will be a notable Uranian signature, whether it's affecting
Yes.
the ruler of the seventh, in this case, literally, like, yes, this says a lot.
Yeah. Can I just say, I just noticed they both have Moon Uranus conjunction. So part
Yes.
of getting Beyonce's time is it moved that Scorpio moon right on top of Uranus, which before it was kind of questionable how close they were. But I think
Mm-hmm.
Moon Uranus is incredible for two people that are like the first of their kind.
Yes.
They are
Yes.
entities and phenomenons onto themselves, both from a financial and professional standpoint, but also just from like a cultural standpoint as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that is unprecedented is in the arena of Uranus. And I just love that they have that together. And the moon means that it's even like part of the family as well. So that's
Yes.
incredible that they have that connection I'm seeing now. Yeah.
It's very like Prometheus, right? Like they're building
Ooh,
the world, and now,
yeah.
we're kind of at an interesting point with post Pluto and Capricorn. Do we like the world we build? Have we actually
Mm.
built a world that is really structurally sound?
Ooh, yeah, and that Pluto on her Mars then. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because obviously, we've got a Mars Pluto conjunct, I mean, opposition, the third final grand act, thank God,
Mhm.
coming up next week. And she also kicks off her Cowboy Carter tour right after that.
Okay.
So again, if she doesn't have an astrologer, it would be very surprising.
Yeah,
But or maybe she is her own astrologer. I would not put it past her to have studied her own and like figured it out for herself because this is what the chart is,
definitely. Yeah, with that
right?
Moon Uranus conjunction, the eighth, she's a witch with
Yeah.
deep intelligence, not just paying lip service to it.
Yes, absolutely. Like very embodied. Although, here's the thing, Chiron and Taurus, it's almost like she was learning to embody that later on in life on some
Yeah.
level. Like, and I think you actually do see that even with the evolution of her music, right? Because again, she came out with these songs and then she had like her, really great run. But then obviously there was like a very defining moment later on in their relationship and the turmoil.
Mhm.
And I feel like her music started getting more
Yeah,
real, more heartfelt, right? And I think that is a testament to that Uranus moon, the evolving emotion, but then how real do I want to get with my
stepping
relationship?
into it and that kind of fearlessness there too. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
literally she was airing her pain in that Lemonade album. That could
Mm-hmm.
have, I mean, I imagine it's deeply vulnerable, but at that point she had built up such a legacy.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
I of course drew up the Lemonade
no
release date. Well,
way.
actually here, let me pull up the Met Gala
Okay.
elevator because obviously both are very related to each other. But now that we actually have her chart and we look back at these events in hindsight, I mean, powerful, really,
Yeah.
really powerful. Hello, we have another Venus Aries. We just came out of a Venus Aries retrograde.
Right.
So obviously very important for Beyonce, these Venus Aries times.
Yeah, Mars retrograde in the seventh, right? So literally like relationship turmoil. I see Jupiter and Cancer in the fourth house as like Solange standing up for her, or probably getting a tremendous amount of support from home, we had to
Oh,
assume.
oh my
Oh,
God. Hygeia and her
Hygeia and siblings,
third.
yeah, and Gemini, and Jupiter on her Hygeia.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh,
Mm-hmm.
Saturn on the moon is one of the toughest transits. But again, just like with Kendrick Lamar, again, always finding threads, this can be a period of time where your emotions push you to such a limit that it just comes out extraordinarily through the work. So even
Mm-hmm.
though, again, Lemonade came later, this, of course, maybe it was like the seeding of the emotions or the tumult that gave us Lemonade,
Oh
right?
my God, yeah, powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
again, Ceres retrograde, but on her Venus. So like what childhood
Yeah.
thing are we repeating here also, right? Matthew and Tina. Like
Yeah.
there's stuff here. There's like some real deep pain here. And again, look at the South Node on her ascendant.
Wow.
Like now that we have her ascendant, act that exact hit almost like,
Yeah.
and we have just come out of another Libra Aries eclipse, right? So it's the idea that obviously these eclipses are incredibly important to Beyonce, whether it's, how it comes out through her work or whether what happens in her relationship and then what comes out after.
Yeah, and I don't know if the nodes exactly track on, but like Jay-Z recently got her into some trouble just with allegations with what he was doing with Diddy. So again, it's always like
Hmm.
the partner pulling her into some shit.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was as big and as historic as like the Met Gala, but you can even see like just nodal activations across
Hmm.
those houses. It's like What is Jay-Z gonna do now?
Yeah. I mean, it's also interesting, right? Because at the time that was a nodal activation for her ascendant descendant, but it was also squaring her actual nodes. So,
Ah,
you
yep.
know, when you think about a Saturn moon, to your point, this was also a very Saturnian time, of course, given Saturn ruler of the South Node in her seventh of relationships. It's the idea of
Yeah.
something in the relationship is not working. We actually have to restructure if we want to actually give this any shot at making it the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah. And Saturn and Scorpio in the eighth house really needing to broker there's those deep, deep conversations about like what now? Oh, I can't
Mhm.
imagine what went on behind the scenes.
Mm. Like it's also the idea, right? Like that she is never going to show this publicly either. Like whatever conversation, we're gonna have it behind the scenes. But the idea that other people will also do it for me. Like I am not gonna be the active person doing it also. So my sister's gonna do it on my behalf. Other people are gonna fuck up my
I
stuff on
love
my
that.
behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yes.
especially like Mars in the seventh at this time. It's like, go ahead and fight my battle, sis.
Oh my God. So if Mars is coming through your seventh, let other people fight your battles for you. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Crafty behavior. Shout out to the Aquarius risings because Mars is in Leo now officially. Again, hello, Mars in Leo. Mars in Leo.
Go protect them friends. Stand up for them.
Amen. Channel your inner Beyonce because
That's
this
right.
is the vibe right now. Okay. So this is the Met Gala. Now, obviously, Lemonade release.
Okay.
Boom.
We get Venus again. We get Venus and Aries again. I love that signature.
On
It's
like
showing up.
applying her ascendant.
Yeah.
Venus Uranus at that. I
Surprise drop. Ooh.
surprise drop, bat to the car.
Yeah. Back to the car. Like that's one of the most iconic images is her in that dress. And like, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Mercury on her Chiron.
Again. Again. That was Met Gala too. Did you see?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what? Before it was Saturn on her moon. Now this dropped
Saturn.
on a Scorpio moon.
Yeah.
So even though it was not the same planetary activation, the idea that the themes will run through and different planets will bring out different renditions or colors or what you need to do with it, right? Different scripts for how you play that role now or how you fix a situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, Juno retro, like Juno on her Juno
Juno return retrograde. Yeah.
and Jupiter on her
Yay.
sun. Like,
Pluto on the midheaven, I think.
yeah, Pluto on the midheaven.
Yeah. In the prior chart, Pluto was also, I don't know if it was stationing or retrograde, but yeah, Pluto is just dragging out that story, of course, over the decades.
Incredible.
Wow.
Incredible. Like
And
it,
also like what is lemonade, but like something that's supposed to be refreshing, but's a little bit sour. That's very Venus Aries coded.
oh my God, yes,
Lemons
but
to lemonade is a Venus fallen type of story arc. Let's try to turn it into
totally.
something. Yeah.
Totally. Also, I mean, here's the it totally speaks to her Mars, right? Like whether it rules her chart, whether it rules her moon,
Yeah.
the idea that she will always turn her pain into well, I was gonna say she's a definition of my pain is everything is content, okay? Everything
Okay.
will be content. Like my pain, content, everything content, but I'm doing it for the art. I'm doing it because this is all part of my experience as how I understand things and now I want to share
Yeah.
it. And it can actually help other people on some level because you get to have these difficult conversations. You get to then also, I think, see what it's like to repair a relationship and come back from something that most people would perceive as totally like we're done, we're out, and what
Right.
it means to teach a different layer of intimacy.
I love that with like Mercury activating that Chiron too. Like the album being a vessel ultimately for like healing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes. And I mean, I know we like jumped ahead to the Lemonade release, but before you were texting me earlier, I thought it was really funny with the VMA interruption of it all. By the way, speaking
Yes.
of like seventh house and other people always like fucking up, yucking up her yum, right?
Yes. 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 Yes.
This moment, in case people have forgotten, Kanye got on stage, Taylor Swift was involved. Another person we do not know her rising sign, but allegedly is a Cap
We don't know
rising.
Kanye's either. That'll be a day for us when that drops and Swift's
Actually,
drops.
the alleged, right?
It's
Kanye's a
Cancer,
Cancer
right?
rising, Taylor's a Capricorn rising, also
Okay.
potential Scorpio, but Capricorn seems to be winning out, especially post Eras tour.
Got
But
it.
and it makes sense on some level because again, all these people are cardinal players.
Yes. Let's say there's a cardinal connection.
Cardinals rise up, Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, Libra. Shout out.
Absolutely.
Shout
Yes.
out to you. But okay, VMA Interruption, huge moment in the chart, not only from a pop culture perspective, but clearly from a chart activation perspective. What do you see? Give me
I
your.
mean, the first thing I saw, exact Mercury return, but it's like a retrograde Mercury. And so that's very much like, oop, slip up. This wasn't, accounted for. I need to go back on stage again and like redo this and hand tailor the award, right? So like redoing things even is there. But again, as you've already noted, it's like this is other people throwing her into situations that she needs to mediate. And boy, would a seventh house Libra stellium be an incredible mediator.
Amazing.
Right? And so
Amazing.
gracious. We saw how gracious she was that day. Yeah,
Yes. Although it's interesting, right? Because it's also, this was during her nodal opposition.
saw that. Yeah.
What do you make of that in the context of what happened?
I mean, it's like a pivot point in fate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not only Beyonce's fate, but like I feel like that created an interesting kind of dynamic between like, I don't know, like white artists getting praised, and maybe that was like one of the linchpins of this larger conversation about who gets awarded that obviously carried through until this year when she finally got Album of the Year, right, at the
Mm-hmm.
Grammys. Yeah, so I see like nodal activations as like pivot points, right? An accumulation of events that happen that like become, when you look back, like incredible, yeah, like turning points or like shifts in the narrative or story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously Lilith is
Mm,
here too, right? And so when I think about the manner in which things played out, I would I'm getting the hit that even though Kanye represented what Beyonce might have felt deep down,
hmm
because that Mars, Leo, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like at that time, Kanye was so incredibly loyal to Jay-Z and Beyonce. And we kind of even see that whole thing kind of unravel in such spectacular fashion, this Mercury retrograde
That's right.
also. So a very eventful season, right? But then the beginning of Pluto and Capricorn, VMA interruption, we get
Yep.
this nodal opposition. And it almost does feel like ultimately Beyonce had to learn to not necessarily actively be chased. Like if your goal is to just chase the achievements and things like that, that cannot be the only thing.
Right.
It almost has to be fueled truly like you have to do what it is you need to do and like really pursue your artistry and really like these are going to actually like push you to like cultivating a body of work that honestly like you don't need the recognition that way. It will come when it comes, but the recognition is not going to come that easy in that
That's
manner.
right. And that's also like, you know, if I saw Mars in the fifth house in someone's chart, just like Mars as the arena of our biggest challenges, one of the ways that can play out for Beyonce is like, well, when is my time in the sun? When do I get that award? And having that be like an uphill climb for her. And like even having people actively say, like, she didn't deserve that. Like, that's just a contentious part
Mhm.
of her creative like life, unfortunately, too. Like that Mars heat and conflict that comes from like, when will my creations be exalted, right? In the ways that others, people's creations are exalted. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially because now we know that she's a night chart, right? Like both
Mm,
Jupiter and Saturn, in the seventh house, potentially even honing in on the onerousness of the criticism that is coming through from, well, her biggest critics and fans, I guess. Because, subconsciously, like you're all obsessed, like that's why you're criticizing. But um, it's interesting that now after Pluto and Capricorn, right, she finally gets her flowers. Like
yes.
Pluto had to literally leave her 10th house for her to cultivate. It's almost like here's the thing. Pluto comes in, understands where have you been giving too much power away to, and then works with you to uncover your own self-reliance on your power and not having it be from the external, right? So in this case, Beyonce had gone through the whole 16 years of Pluto and Capricorn in her 10th
Mm,
house.
mhm.
Now that it finally has arrived at this point where it is opposing her Mars, the empowerment actually is coming through. You get
Yeah.
album of the year. You get
And I was gonna say, it's also like in her 11th house of like peers, right? So that is when
Mhm.
she's recognized. That's when like, the power or the recognition through Pluto comes through that 11th house of like, oh, I'm recognized. But you're right, it brings up that Pluto and Leo. It says like, now's the time. Yes.
Who said that
Crazy.
Pluto Mars could be a bad thing, right? Like this also shows you that Pluto and Mars, they're working to get empowerment going, right? At the
That's
end of the
right.
day.
That's right. And empowerment is a tricky, tense game. It just is. It's not easy or it wouldn't be empowerment.
No, seriously. So serious.
Yeah.
It is interesting also, especially, worth noting, Pluto moved into her 11th Aquarius, but that's also now co-present with her lot of fortune.
Mm.
So there is an element of the communities accepting her, people, wider scale acceptance, maybe even, especially, when I think about this Cowboy Carter, right? And her wanting to bridge a whole
Yeah.
different lane of music and then actually help pave the way for other musicians to really walk through, really speaks to her Libra stellium, really speaks to that lot of fortune in the 11th as well. But now Pluto coming in, blowing that wide open.
She also did the same thing, and Pluto did a little dance between Cap and Aquarius, I think since 2023. But I think
Yes.
Renaissance was much in the same vein as like highlighting a community that was not being highlighted and putting it in the music, right? And
Hmm.
these things aren't without their controversy, by the way. Like Pluto is always going to bring that little like layer of like, ooh, there might be backlash. But ultimately, it was a game of empowerment for her and for
Hmm.
the community, the drag community and the disco community, like all those folks who, again, Libra seventh house, she saw the value of.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do remember watching the Renaissance movie. I did not
Mhm.
make it to the concert, tragedy, but she talked so much about her uncle in the movie
Yeah.
as well, in the documentary. And I think, of course, that sixth house Virgo, the impact of that and the idea that, again, now Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's in conjunct, almost as if it was like this maybe was what I was missing a little bit earlier on. It's almost like, again, as she got older, more mature in her sound and more confident in her voice, Chiron and Taurus, and her, I think, artistry, Mars and Leo in her fifth house, she actually got to then bring in other causes. She actually gets to be the advocate for other people in
Mm.
her own way too, not in a way that other people are asking for or claiming for, demanding. She's doing it through her music, through her artistry, through her
Absolutely.
like by just, I think, even being a super uber successful Black woman with a platform in this magnitude and such brilliant artistry in of itself is a
Yeah,
revolutionary act in these days, right?
that is absolutely totally agree. Yeah.
Blue Ivy Carter. There we go.
Yeah.
Big moment. I've also pulled up Rumi and Sir's charts as well, but this is Blue Ivy's alleged time
Okay.
also. Um, I mean,
Wow. That's all I can say was wow. There's a lot happening here.
What's your first awe, your astro awe at? Like, I'm such a Cancer. I'm like,
What is
oh.
it? Yeah. I mean, the ascendant of the moment right on her Mars, the ascendant of the moment highlighting that fifth house space, which, by the way, ascendant ruler in the fifth house can come through as like deeply identifying with like motherhood or like that was always an arc that Beyonce was on. It's just that she
Mm-hmm.
also balanced it with career. And so I
Mm-hmm.
love the ascendant of blue coming into the world, highlighting that natal promise in a lot of ways, right?
Oh my God.
Uranus in the first house for like, boom, this is like a different identity for you. Like you're
Yeah.
fundamentally changed. I see the sun on her midheaven, like blue is part of her growth. I see so many things. I can't stop. It's like a candy store.
It really is like it's like one of those like really fun like I'll like word search, crosswords, like let me like circle as many aspects
That's
as
right.
possible just because there really is so much. And also, I mean, Mars on Ceres, like
Mm.
mm, Demeter and Persephone.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah. Mother,
giving
daughter.
Demeter and Persephone very much. If you're not familiar with the myth, I highly recommend you check that out because it's also a very interesting story around the underworld, eighth house,
I was gonna say, like,
control.
there's powerful mother stuff happening there. Like, one of the things I noted with now Beyonce's moon being in the eighth house, ruling that
Hmm.
fourth house space is like,
Hmm.
again, reinforcement of like the witchy connections to ancestry and roots, but also like a profound relationship to just like the maternal line. Like, I feel like her
Hmm.
relationship to Tina is powerful. Blue's
Yes.
relationship to Beyonce will be powerful. So there's something, yeah, that's happening there
Hmm.
between the moms and the daughters.
Absolutely. Oh, I literally just got chills. I think this is very cute.
It is.
Venus, lot of fortune, lot of like it
Yeah.
makes sense that Blue is on tour with Beyonce. It makes sense that Blue is her like mini me, let me go out there and like claim this for myself as well. Like there's a lot of
Mhm.
support in the chart between the both of them, and Blue definitely is going to be carrying on the legacy. It's so powerful, really, to watch like prominent, very strong Black women just owning their spaces and really at the highest level, out of necessity,
Yeah.
but really still incredible to watch.
She is such her mom's daughter, right?
Hmm.
There's so much in this chart that even, like I can see like the resemblance even in their identity and like who they're here to be in a lot of ways. Yeah,
Very cute, the Saturn return story,
of
of
course.
course.
Saw that
Like,
with Martha too. Yeah.
literally.
Happens a
And
lot, folks.
it's actually interesting, right? Because Martha had a very different relationship with her daughter relative to Beyonce and
Mhm.
Blue. And I mean, that North Node Cancer, like, really, Beyonce became Beyonce when I think she really tapped into her inner mother. Like,
Mama. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, at a
Yeah.
very deep, deep level.
She's
Very,
all of
very.
our moms, right? Like she is mother, isn't she? Isn't
Yes.
she the archetypal mother of all mothers?
Yes. I mean, we throw that word around a lot these days, but there are very few that really wear the crown in such a way as Queen Bey, right? With the
Right.
Mars in Leo. Again, admittedly, a thought that I had when, we were talking about like other people doing stuff for her. That's like queen behavior. Like, I'm not gonna get my hands dirty,
That's
friends.
right.
Like,
Queen bee behavior. Yes. She has her army of bees that do that.
yes. And I mean, you brought this up in our text conversation this morning, but the beehive, right? With
Hmm.
her lot of fortune in Aquarius, like community is her biggest resource on some
Yes.
level. And like the internet, she goes viral, right? Like this, we love this about her. But other
Yes.
celebrities actually who have very prominent fans, like the Arianators or the Rihanna Navy, they all have prominent 11th house placements
They
as
do.
well.
They
Hmm.
do. Yeah. Yeah. They could just
Yeah.
catalyze like people to just like collect in their name. But I'm also seeing here like the propensity for parasocial relationships to open up, specifically with
Totes.
Beyonce, ruler of the
To-
11th and the 7th. Like, are you fan, friend? You don't know me really, like, so that
Yeah,
is always an 11th house thing for any like famous person is like your visibility and accessibility makes people think that they know you or own you, which is tricky to navigate.
totally, 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 totally. And well, I would actually, it's interesting, right? Because she is so Libra, so on some level, she'll never say no explicitly, but
Yeah.
she will be it's very definitive that she'll like post something, right? But she's not in the comments messaging people. Like she'll post, but she's not engaged. She draws her boundaries around like the one-on-one tete-a-tete, but then she'll perform on stage, she'll, talk to people on stage, right? But that's it. There's always a level of separation. She's not a cuddly fan type of person.
No, she's not. And when I was thinking about Aries rising, I was thinking, okay, so her pop star counterpart Rihanna also has an Aries rising, but it feels like persona-wise, they're so completely different. And I think that's the difference between like Rihanna's Mars and Sag being the
Hmm.
chart ruler as being a little bit more free-willedy and like whatever I want to say, do whatever I want, versus
Hmm.
the more regal royal temperament of having the chart ruler in Leo, right?
Hmm.
Right, which is a little bit more like fixed and sturdy and like not as inclined to be like messy. And even
Right.
her ascendant in Aries is in the terms of Saturn. So just adding more layers to why this Aries may be showing up in a way that's more self-contained and
Hmm.
not the typical like rough, foolhardy Aries energy. Like Rihanna is or was in the comment sections fighting with her fans.
Yeah.
Beyonce would never, right? There's different influences at play here that make her a different kind of Aries rising.
Well, Beyonce also's got, I'm sorry, Rihanna has also got Pisces
That's right.
in her chart. And so when you think about the parasocial, like next level relationships where it can border into like you get out of my head, like I will be
Yeah.
in your space, like that to me is transgressing boundaries there. But for Beyonce, her 12th house, Pisces, also ruled by that Jupiter conjunct Saturn. So again,
Boundary.
boundaries.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
This again is a really beautiful way of demonstrating that do Beyonce, don't engage. Like you're not really supposed to engage like that. You're supposed to really understand who you're getting the feedback from. There are certain people who you take the feedback from. Other people can fly kites, but you always have to make sure those boundaries are
Yeah. Like
locked.
Beyonce, you are exalted. You don't come
Mm-hmm.
down from that position to
Mm-hmm.
clap back.
No. Well, actually, what is interesting because she's a 29 Aries, right? To me, that gives off general rather than foot soldier, right? The foot soldiers
Ah,
fight the battles in the DMs. The generals fund the foot
I love
soldiers
that.
who fight the
That
DMs.
makes sense for it being in the terms of Saturn. So yeah, there's a more dignity, there's more restraint, there's more strategy than just being
Hmm.
like, right, the warrior that goes off and does whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you think back to the Sabian symbol earlier around that midheaven and like this internalized purpose as a kid, that she's always had to take on more responsibility, always holding bags of groceries bigger, like more than she can hold, right? Like the built-in sense of internalized parenting. Like I had to step up and be the parent, and how that then translates to overall in my life, I'm operating at a not high vibration, but like I'm operating at this like mature parent type of vibe, which means
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like come down to your level.
And South Node on the midheaven means she's done that before. That's a well-worn pattern into her soul. So that's something that she would assume quite naturally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's been doing this in different lifetimes, I'm sure, and
Mm-hmm.
knows how to like just remain with her head held high. Yeah.
Yeah, you won't break her soul, which is
That's right.
very Venus Pluto squaring her nodes. Like it's the idea that in a past life, maybe other people did break her soul. And
Mm,
she's come back with such a not vengeance, but such a fuel. She's saying these things in her songs. Like I love when you hear the chart through the lyrics, the words. Yeah, you can't break my soul. That's also so Scorpio, Lilith Moon.
mm,
And
mhm.
I think this is also interesting, right? Like her moon being caught between Uranus and Lilith, it's not comfortable. It's hard for her to find her peace.
Yeah. That's also just reiterated by Chiron Taurus. So there's just a
Mm-hmm.
volatility to the life or an inability again to find like stability materially or otherwise. Moon in
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio is already uncomfortable. Yeah. And then you place it between those two. Yeah.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, my memory is a little hazy and a little overstimulated with all the events and transits happening, but
Right.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was the Sur and Rumi birth was a very grueling process. Like I think maybe the labor wasn't easy, but I also remembered the recovery, as alluded to earlier, in preparation for like Beychella and then the Homecoming documentary. Like that was very difficult. That was very taxing on her body.
Yeah. Absolutely. So is this the Rumi? Oh my God, the twins' birth.
The twins' birth,
The
yes,
ascendant in the midheaven space. I feel like they're operating at a different like story than Blue. Like I'm interested to see what
totally.
their roles are going to be within this family because yeah. Oh my God, the moon right on the fortune. This is so
All
cute.
of Beyonce's kids like having this lot, like the children are the blessing. The children bring
Mm.
abundance. Oh,
Yeah, and that North Node in Cancer, fourth house, it's like family is the way, right? Family is the way. I
I
love this.
mean, hello, Uranus on the ascendant. It would make sense. Like that would have been a trying or difficult or labor if, and Pluto on the midheaven. Oh,
Yeah. Mars in Cancer is not also a great time for a mother to be giving birth. That's Mars brings, right, like heat and cutting and inflammation and pain to that
lot of
process.
bleeding,
Yeah.
lot of bleeding. It is interesting, right? Because earlier we said Pluto was on the midheaven when Lemonade was released,
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
and Pluto's on the midheaven now
Yeah.
at their birth. On some level, we talk about wonder what this could mean in the context of Beyonce's story. It feels like the children are the product of each layer of the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blue came at a time when they were like conquering the world, building the world. Sir and Rumi came after Met Gala Elevator
Yeah.
and Lemonade release, right? The idea of this being a product of this growth and evolution of this relationship to solidify the relationship even it's just the Pluto coming back to the midheaven is so freaking striking for both events.
It is, and Uranus is also bookending, I think. Well, I think what Blue Ivy
Yep.
came with 0 degrees. Yeah, and like now Uranus is pretty much at the end of
Yep.
its reign in Aries there. Yeah, so there's
Yep.
something there about like the reinvention of self. Again, it's would be playing off that seventh house stellium, so of course it brings in partnership and others. That's really curious and it's really neat. Uh, I
It's
love how the
very
story is
neat.
just like very clean. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, Saturn and Neptune also.
What do you think about that? I saw that and I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, again, remember thinking this was a very difficult labor, I would imagine this invoking God, finding
Mhm.
faith in a deeper way, which also then I think helped catalyze other things as part of the process. Because I think when you arrive at a point, right, where you're like successful, you're crushing life, like
Mhm.
what else are you like trying to work for? Like, what's my meaning more than just surviving and thriving? And I think when you survive something so harrowing, it can really reinforce your faith. And before I can see, here's the thing, Neptune and Sag, I have a very wide vision, ninth house, right? I want to see where this can go. But the reality is I need more than just this. I need something deeper than this. And I think this moment kind of birthed that as well, in a very
Yeah,
real
like
way.
the limitations, Saturn of a dream, Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
I was also reading that Neptune ninth house is like she's a very God-made woman. Like she's very devotional, she's very religious.
Yeah.
Um, God and spirituality is just in her work. And then of course as a placement of like fame as like your intellectual property, like IP publishing is just widespread. It transcends all Sagittarius borders of language, ethnicity, age. At the
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance show, every creed, every kind of human being was there.
Yeah.
I think that just speaks to
Yeah.
Neptune in the ninth. And if you will allow me, because this is just, again, my Neptune
Please.
passion, the other person who we often compare Beyonce to in terms of legacy, talent, is Michael Jackson, who
Mm.
similarly had Neptune in the ninth trying his ascendant. And so I think there's
Mm.
something about this placement. It's just them two. I don't even think anyone
Very
else is in
interesting.
alignment there. It makes you deified. You
Mm.
are idol. You are God. You are zeitgeist. You are the culture. Like nothing surpasses or transcends. And so to see that link up in both of their charts, uh, I just, again, like shivers. I mean, they're doing it in different ways. Like Michael Jackson have that Scorpio tint to his. Beyonce
Mhm.
has this Sagittarius tint to hers. But I was like,
Mhm.
there it is.
Yeah.
They become embedded in culture, which I think is a kind of fame that is long lasting and not, ephemeral. They'll be here forever.
Mhm. Yeah.
Timeless. Yeah.
I'm actually curious to think about Taylor Swift's chart in that context too, because both of them had very similar summers with the Venus retrograding Leo back with the Renaissance tour and the Eras tour, and then
Yeah.
for and Taylor's is a Neptune and Cap, so like that just keeps going, like
Yeah.
endless over time. But yeah, it is very interesting to think about that. Especially, I think you made a similar S comment about Martha and Mercury and Cancer in the ninth house. That's a name that travels
That's
far
right.
beyond. And so, when you think about maybe if you're looking at the ninth house, right, and you're like higher mind, education, culture, long distance journeys, spiritual, religious pilgrimages, sure, sure, sure. All these things still check out, still make
Yeah.
sense, right? But there is a deeper layer of, wow, like if you are a celebrity or if you are someone that is looking to have these crazy big dreams, it's the idea that your name can actually, you can have that potential.
I love that. Yeah. There's something beyond about the ninth house that, the 11th house maybe people would think as fame because it's like you and the audience. But there's something so, I think, permanent about the way that Beyonce or Michael Jackson or even the way Taylor Swift have
Hmm.
changed culture. They've tapped into human belief and human stories, which is something that I think is a ninth house thing,
Hmm.
devoid of the 11th house, like sure you're famous or you have a lot of followers, which can be a more superficial level of fame. Like they've tapped into something else that is
Hmm.
beyond and they will live forever, I think.
Uh, Yes. It's interesting that Neptune making these in conjunctions with like her Chiron in Taurus and like even the Hygeia, like the Neptune is so powerful in so many different ways. It's almost like when you listen to her music, you wouldn't like again, she is the pop star, but then psych, she's actually going to touch some real deep, like real deep emotional like embodied feeling,
That's
and
right.
and I think that is also part of it when you tap into that real visceral, and I mean eighth house Scorpio moon, the idea that she's everyone's therapist essentially.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
And by the way, she didn't start like this. Like this has been a journey for
Hmm.
her. I mean, like Destiny's Child is iconic, but those songs were fun and they were like very pop oriented, like Bootylicious. Yeah, right. Fun. Neptune can also be pop.
Hmm.
Bubblegum stuff that's just so widespread and delicious and yummy. But
Hmm.
it's taken her, and I would assume this private eighth house emotional transformative journey, years to get to the place where she can be this kind of like figure and like
Hmm.
really put that kind of intensity and full-throatedness into her music and be that healer
Hmm.
that she's here to be. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's actually a really powerful journey because
Yes.
and in true Virgo fashion, Virgo in her sixth house, she she laid the groundwork, she showed her process, she showed her progress for all
That's
to
right.
see.
That's right. We've seen her progress, right? We've seen the humility, we've seen her mess up, we've seen her want to get better. It's beautiful.
It's, I just realized too, it's a wide conjunction, oh sorry, it's a wide square, but Neptune is squaring her sun, wide 10-degree orb as well.
Oh,
Yes, am I doing the
yes.
math? I'm
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yes.
math
That's
is
a
losing
square.
me right now. But when you talk about the deification, right? So astrology is beautiful because there are all these different ways the story comes together, but they all are still consistent and in support of each other. They all buttress each other. They don't
That's right. Yeah.
act in contradiction. So I think when I think Neptune, anytime Neptune aspects, especially it's a personal planet, right? Like there's the transpersonal tapped in you, and on some level, it's a square, there's a challenge around that, right? Like before, maybe we were surface level, but
Yeah.
now over time we have integrated this square so that we can really, to your point, tap in.
Absolutely. I totally see
Hmm.
that. I also see that as leakage with like, who is
Hmm.
Beyonce?
Yeah.
Who knows, right? She's perfectly curated how she wants you to see her, which I think is a good way to mitigate against Neptune square sun like projections,
Hmm.
although those still obviously come.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love this moment of her winning the Grammy and the moon right on her ascendant.
You
Ah,
know, I was like wondering like how do I even end this episode? I'm like, let me end it with the Grammys transits because this really was what she had been working for, this pinnacle moment of the most winning artist of all, like 35, and like at that point still not winning an album of the year. Insanity,
right.
insanity. But on a deeper level, again, because we saw with the VMAs, we pulled that chart up. That moment came at the beginning of Pluto and Capricorn. This
Yeah,
moment has come now when Pluto is literally opposing her Mars, having officially left Capricorn for good, good.
that's right. Yes. A new like ascension of power in the community. Yes, I love
Oh
it.
my God. I mean, Uranus on Chiron too in that second. Oh, is this the moment she feels
Yeah.
like, you know what? I feel good in my voice. I feel embodied in my voice.
Yeah, like breaking free from whatever that pain story was, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which now brings me back to my original question I had for you at the beginning of the episode. Now that, not a coincidence that Beyonce dropped time submerged into collective consciousness. Okay, we've established herself as someone that is very tapped into the collective consciousness, and we've also established that she is an incredibly deeply private person that would never give you any more information until it is intentional. So, one, now that we've gone back in history to look at some transits, do you buy into this birth time? And two, do you feel like it is more significant laying the groundwork for what Beyonce's future plans are away from the industry as such?
Yeah, I do buy this birth time because there are repetitions of transits that were happening during other pivotal moments of her life. Now, again, is pop culture is the are the masses reading this as a big moment? No. I
Hmm.
don't know that this is going to make headlines. Like this is just such a niche thing, which is also very Pluto and Aquarius, like a very niche population of astrologers are like freaking out. But you can see like the Neptune zero bookend, the same kind of bookend we got with when Uranus was entering Aries and she had a prominent new beginning. Sun on the ascendant, right? There's always like kind of an ascendant like trigger that happens
Hmm.
when she's like being highlighted. Hello, a Mars return. So this is a completely new cycle for her in terms of identity, right? Now that we know that to be her ascendant lord. The South Node approaching her sun. I just feel like there's shifts here there's differences in how maybe she will show up to the astrology community. I don't know if it's going to change her overall impact, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
do see the quiet impact of this moment for us. I also like didn't realize that Jupiter was opposing her Neptune. So now I'm thinking if this wasn't intentional, I wonder if it was a mistake. Who
Mm.
knows,
Through the
right?
retrogrades, she like just
Maybe something got by her. Maybe she didn't realize that's what it
oh my
was.
God,
Maybe
can you
she didn't
imagine?
look at that page. I don't know. I don't
Can you
know.
imagine like part of her Pluto Mars story being like they know now? And like the shock inside
Yeah.
would be too much. Oh my gosh. You know what? I hear you. I hear you. This is significant for a niche community. But as someone that like looks at pop culture, you and I both also, I think, know when there are clues, like kind of, when you make a prediction or whatever, right? Like it's never like this will definitively happen. I mean, sometimes sure, but in this case, I'm always very curious when nuggets get dropped. So similar to like, when rumors fill up the blinds and, when you're like, oh, interesting that that has come up at this time. It's never if this is true or not. It is more
Yeah,
the idea of it feels very interesting and coincidental. We don't believe in
that's right.
coincidences that this has emerged at this moment in time. And here's the thing, when you think about what is there really left to do in Beyonce's discography, and I'm sure she'll show me wrong and she'll prove us all wrong. Like there is endless to do. There's a Libra stellium here,
There's
but
an act three on the way.
there is an act three on the way. Could this be gearing up for act? Is this a function of act three? Is act
Who
three
knows?
part of the process? Because again, going back to her progressed lunar phases, she had her full moon Feb 4th, 2020. She is currently right now in her progressed disseminating, between her disseminating and last quarter. And that
Mm,
is going to be on 26 degrees Cancer, right on her node, family, fourth home stuff. So I don't think anyone would have assumed. I mean, I don't know. Maybe other people assumed Beyonce was gonna like be here forever in this manner. But I can see a situation where in a couple of years, around that point, after Act Three is done, she's done.
yeah. I can see Neptune in Aries as a mellowing force, the sudden realization that rest and ease is important. But you're right, it just began its story. Maybe as it gets just even a little bit more closer to her ascendant, it won't get to her ascendant for many years, but maybe as
Mm-hmm.
that story progresses, it'll be this, as it hits across her Libra stellium, right? It'll be this story of like time to dissolve into another phase.
Especially when it comes up against Saturn.
Right.
The Neptune will be moving back into Pisces one last time, October through Feb this year. It almost makes me wonder if we hear something about Act 3 around that period when Neptune dips back into Pisces, because it's still a nod to this past era.
Yeah.
And then you see those things play out after. But of course, this is all going to be very interesting, especially in the context of the Jay-Z stuff, other people's
Yeah.
stuff coming down the pike. Diddy's trial is coming up. Beyonce was also named in, I think, like the Ghislaine Maxwell lawsuits and things like that, right? Like as an actual defendant. So again, it's not saying Beyonce's got controversy, but again, it's other people's shit that her name gets dragged
Dragged
into.
into.
So you're kind of like, it'll be interesting to see what happens. As much as we've looked at this through, an intimate marriage, domesticity, career, public persona, legacy, motherhood type of lens, there's also we don't necessarily know what's coming with this bubble popping in celebrity culture that we're
Mm.
experiencing right now as well. So who
Yeah.
knows?
I just noticed she has, excuse me, Neptune sextile Pluto exact. That makes me
Yes.
think in some ways, of course, it pulls in lawsuits, but like other people's controversies, like they don't put a dent into her like image, or in some ways
Mm-hmm.
she can even use it to her advantage, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
lemonade. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just, as we think about what's coming up next in terms of, uh-oh, it makes me think, will she be able to maximize it for her benefit, or will it be something different? We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. One of the blinds was saying that there's rumors of them moving. down the line, which would be interesting in the context of that fourth house activation with that
Jupiter,
progress. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
also
yeah.
Jupiter heading there
But
soon. Yeah.
also Jupiter, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, as much as, this news is barely 24 hours old, this is truly breaking news. I feel like we've covered a good smattering of Beyonce's life, Beyonce's chart. Was there anything that you feel we might have missed as part of this process?
Oh, yes, there is one thing I wanted to
Oh my
say that
God,
I think
please
is
roll
just
through, roll through.
funny. All the allegations of her being in the Illuminati. Now, here's one thing I want to say about eighth house placements. Though they are placements that, are kept to ourselves or for our intimate partnerships, it does not mean that they don't radiate outwards into some aura of mystery. Okay. So I think this Scorpio eighth house, like Uranus eighth house situation, like how could she have done this? She had to have brokered, some relationship with the devil. I just feel like that's so eighth house Scorpio moon for people to think like you're up to some nefarious shit.
Yeah, honestly, but also
Yeah.
like lately there was like these random like things that showed up on my feed on Instagram, not even on TikTok blind land, okay? But like about like rituals and like all these things that they would do in like
I remember seeing
apartments,
that.
right? You were like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. But then you like see here, you're like, okay, very Neptune and Sag also, right? It's like salacious gossip in the broad,
Salacious. Yes.
like, and
Rumors. Yes.
yes. Now that I think about it, you know how you talked about could this have been a mistake, right? Because of the Jupiter Neptune? And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, everything else she has like more of a say in, I guess, maybe, but if it maybe is coming to like the thumbing of the book itself, right? Like that's delegated out to the third, ninth house. And
That's
so
right.
like there's Neptune, which is not too good with details.
Yeah. Jupiter and Gemini is not doing well with details either.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
she's probably pissed as fuck.
Oh my God. I really do wonder if this will cause any kind of reaction in her down the line. We got a new edition of the Torah book. She took out this page. We don't know why, but we do.
Oh, that would actually be so funny if you see the reprint and you notice that's gone. And if it is gone, you know for sure
It's
that
true.
it's true. But now that she's a Scorpio, right? She now knows like regardless of what she does, this is out there. Like it is what it is. So that's why I'm like, I think on some deeper level, there's a bigger thing here
Yeah.
around because again it's about access, right? The birth chart is the time is like your social security number, like your spiritual
Mhm.
social security number. So like again, if you're on TikTok and you're like read my chart and here's my whole chart and all this stuff, like just know that there are entities out there that can actually see a lot more than you think you can see, and be careful. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, we work in
Yeah.
this space, so be careful.
Yeah. There are negative ways to use this art, unfortunately, and people will do that.
Absolutely. And for you and I, we use this for spirituality and
Fun
for
and
our love of
education.
pop culture and education.
Yeah, for joy and
Uh,
laughs and the yap and the tea, right?
God bless us all. But again, you can find Camille on Instagram at it's
Millie
Millie
Michelle.
Michelle.
Yes.
And again, if you happen to catch this later this evening when this episode drops, Camille will be speaking tomorrow on her Neptune talk, and you can actually get the recording maybe if like they can't make the talk tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you follow me on social media, you can find everything you need to know there. So, like where to go to sign up and listen if you want to attend.
Fabulous. I highly recommend you do because I've learned so much even just from our casual chat.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, it's going to be great. But thanks again
Thanks.
for tuning into
Of
this
course.
special breaking news episode of the Pop Astrologist Presents. I will be back with more deep dives. So, share, subscribe, and like so you don't miss an episode. Take care, everyone.